The first thing Leo noticed was the way his hand hovered over the coffee mug, not holding it, guarding it, like a man expecting gunfire instead of jazz music and espresso steam. Outside, rain hammered the streets of downtown Seattle hard enough to blur the traffic lights into bleeding streaks of red and gold. Inside the Roasted Bean Cafe, nobody noticed him. Nobody except her. And 24 hours later, Leo Harrington would discover that the scarred stranger sitting across from her wasn't just another veteran trying to survive his past. He was the man responsible for destroying her future. The cafe was packed wall to wall. Students, office workers, tourists escaping the storm. Every table taken, every chair occupied. The air smelled like wet coats, burnt espresso, cinnamon syrup, and exhaustion. Leo stood near the entrance in soaked blue scrubs, clutching a paper cup of chamomile tea with both hands like it was life support. 18 hours. That's how long she'd been awake. 18 straight hours in the trauma unit at Providence Regional Hospital. A fatal highway pileup, a teenager with a collapsed lung, an elderly woman who died holding Leo's hand while Frank Sinatra played softly from an old phone speaker. By the time her shift ended, Leo felt hollowed out. Not dramatic, not emotional, just empty. The kind of tired that settles into your bones. She scanned the cafe desperately for an open seat. There was only one, near the back window. Across from him, Leo hesitated. The man sat completely still while the rest of the cafe moved around him like water around stone. Broad shoulders. Dark Henley shirt, military haircut, one jean leg slightly raised above a sleek carbon fiber prosthetic, and scars. Not small scars. Thick burn scars running across his right hand and up beneath his sleeve like melted rope. But it wasn't the scars that made Leo pause. It was his eyes. Cold blue, sharp. Hyper-aware, the kind of eyes that never stopped scanning exits. She'd seen eyes like that before. Combat veterans, PTSD patients, men who came home physically alive but mentally still trapped somewhere overseas. The stranger looked out the rain-streaked window as if he expected someone to come through it. Leo shifted her aching weight onto one foot. Her knees screamed in protest. She needed that chair. "Excuse me," she said softly. The man turned immediately. Too immediately. Not startled. Trained. His gaze locked onto hers with frightening precision. For one strange second, his expression changed. Not annoyance. Not curiosity. Recognition. Like he already knew her. Then it vanished. Just as fast. "Can I sit here?" Leo asked. "Everywhere else is full." The man stared at her scrubs, then her face, then the silver chain around her neck barely visible beneath her collar. Something tightened in his jaw. "Of course," he said quietly. His voice sounded rough, like gravel dragged across concrete. Please." Leo sat carefully, exhaling the deepest breath she'd taken all day. Heat from the tea warmed her frozen fingers. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Only rain. Coffee grinders, soft trumpet music overhead, and the quiet hiss of steamed milk. Then the stranger spoke. "Long shift?" Leo gave a tired laugh. "And that obvious? You've got blood on your shoe." Leo blinked. She looked down, a tiny rust-colored stain near the sole. She hadn't even noticed, and suddenly something about him unsettled her. Because he noticed everything. "I'm a trauma nurse," she admitted. 18 hours. The man nodded once. "The adrenaline crashes all at once," he said. "Then everything hurts." Leo studied him more carefully now. The posture, the breathing, the controlled stillness. Even sitting down, he positioned himself facing both the entrance and the rear hallway. "It's combat habit. Definitely military." "You Army?" she asked carefully. "Navy. A beat. Special warfare." Leo nodded slowly. That explained the scars, the prosthetic, the 1,000-yard stare. "The name's Liam," he said. "Leo?" His eyes flicked upward instantly, not surprised by her name, almost confirmed by it. Again that strange feeling crawled up her spine, like she'd walked into the middle of a conversation she didn't understand. Liam extended his left hand, his unscarred hand. Leo shook it gently. His grip was steady, warm, strong enough to crush bone if he wanted to, but restrained. Controlled. It's a hard job, Liam said, taking care of broken people. Leo stared into her tea. Sometimes we don't fix them. The words came out quieter than she intended. Sometimes we just help them hurt less. For the first time since she sat down, Liam looked genuinely affected by something she said. His eyes dropped briefly. Pain flickered there. Deep pain. Not physical. The kind people carried for years. Outside, thunder rolled across Seattle. The cafe lights flickered softly, and Leo noticed another detail. Liam hadn't touched his coffee once. Not really. He'd been holding the mug for 10 straight minutes, but he never drank it. Like he needed his hands occupied so they wouldn't shake. "You okay?" Leo asked gently. Liam looked up fast, almost defensive. "I'm fine." The answer came too quickly. Classic trauma response. Leo knew it instantly. Deflect. Control. Contain. It was what soldiers did. What nurses did too, if she was being honest. Then Liam asked quietly, "A family waiting for you at home?" Leo's chest tightened. There it was, the question she hated most. She touched the silver chain beneath her scrubs without thinking. A military dog tag rested against her skin. "My fiancé," she said softly. "Army Rangers." Liam froze. Completely froze. He died in Afghanistan. The cafe noise suddenly felt far away. Muted. Leo watched the color drain from Liam's face. His fingers tightened around the coffee mug so hard she thought it might crack. "What was his name?" Liam asked, barely above a whisper. "Thomas Wright." And just like that, the air between them changed. Liam shut his eyes. A sharp breath escaped him. Not grief, not sympathy. Something worse. Guilt. Pure, crushing guilt. Leo leaned forward immediately. "Hey." But Liam stood up too fast. The chair scraped violently against the wooden floor. Nearby customers glanced over. "Sorry," Liam muttered quickly. He looked rattled now. Actually rattled. His breathing turned uneven. Leo's nurse instincts kicked in immediately. "Sit down," she said calmly. "You're pale." "I'm okay." "You don't look okay." For a long moment, Liam stared at her like he wanted to say something. Something enormous. Something dangerous. Then he swallowed hard and forced the mask back on. "I'm sorry about Thomas," he said quietly. Leo gave a small, sad smile. 4 years now. Liam nodded once, but his eyes never left hers. And in that moment, Leo had the terrifying feeling that this stranger knew more about her dead fiancé than he should. Much more. The rain intensified outside, hammering the windows. The cafe suddenly felt too warm, too crowded, too small. Leo checked the time on her phone. Almost midnight. "I should go," she said softly. Liam stood immediately as she grabbed her coat. Military manners. Automatic. "Stay safe, Leo Harrington." The way he said her full name made her stop cold. She never told him her last name. Slowly, Leo looked back at him, and Liam realized his mistake a half-second too late. A flicker of panic crossed his face. Real panic. "What did you just say?" But before he could answer, a loud crash echoed from the front of the cafe. Everyone turned. A waiter had dropped an entire tray of ceramic mugs. Coffee exploded across the floor. People shouted. Chairs scraped. And when Leo looked back toward Liam again, he was gone. Just gone. The chair empty. The coffee untouched. As if he'd never been there at all. Leo stared at the vacant seat while thunder rattled the windows above the cafe. And deep in her chest, for reasons she couldn't explain yet, fear began to bloom. Because somehow, the stranger with the prosthetic leg already knew exactly who she was. Leo burst out of the cafe into freezing rain. "Hey!" Her voice disappeared into the storm. Cars hissed through flooded streets. Neon signs flickered across wet pavement. But the scarred veteran with the icy blue eyes was nowhere in sight. No limping silhouette, no sound of the prosthetic blade against concrete. Nothing, just rain. Heavy, relentless Seattle rain. Leo stood there breathing hard, scanning both ends of the block. How did he know her last name? That question hit harder now than the cold. because she was absolutely certain she never said it. Not once. A taxi splashed through a puddle beside her, snapping her back to reality. "You're exhausted," she told herself. "That's all this is, an overtired brain connecting dots that don't exist." But even as she tried convincing herself, her stomach kept tightening. Nurses survived on instincts, and every instinct she had was screaming that something was wrong. Very wrong. She started walking home fast. Head down, hands shoved into her coat pockets. Rain soaked through her scrubs within minutes. 3 blocks later, her boot struck something near the curb. A soft thud. Leo stopped. Looked down. A worn leather notebook sat half submerged in a puddle beneath a flickering street lamp. Dark brown. Military style. Heavy brass clasp. Her pulse immediately spiked. "Liam." She crouched carefully and picked it up. The leather felt old, scarred, used hard, like it had survived places people weren't meant to survive. Leo looked around again. Still no sign of him. Only distant sirens and rainwater rushing into storm drains. She should have left it alone. Any sane person would have turned it into lost and found tomorrow morning. Instead, she tucked it beneath her coat and hurried home. 40 minutes later, Leo sat cross-legged on her apartment floor, staring at the notebook like it might explode. The apartment was silent except for rain tapping against the windows. A tiny one-bedroom. Second floor. Mostly empty. She never really decorated after Thomas died. A couch, a bookshelf, hospital schedules taped to the fridge. That was about it. Leo wrapped both hands around a reheated mug of tea and looked again at the notebook sitting on her coffee table beneath the lamp glow. Part of her knew opening it was wrong. Private. Personal. But another part, the stronger part, needed answers. How did he know her name? Why did he react like that when she mentioned Thomas? And why did it feel like the man had walked into that cafe looking for her specifically? Finally, Leo reached forward and unclasped the notebook. The leather creaked softly. Inside were pages of cramped handwriting. Coordinates, supply inventories, medical abbreviations, rough terrain sketches, military shorthand she didn't understand. Definitely deployment notes. She flipped another page and froze. Tucked inside the binding was a photograph. A Polaroid. Leo carefully slid it free. The second she saw it, her entire body went cold. It was her, not just someone who looked like her. Her, laughing, wind blowing through her hair, wearing her old Seahawks beanie. Standing near Pike Place Market. The photo had been taken years ago, before Thomas deployed the final time, before grief hollowed her out, before she learned how to function without happiness. Leo's hands began shaking violently. What the hell? She flipped the picture over, handwritten across the back. Leo Harrington, Providence Regional, do not fail him. Leo stopped breathing. The apartment suddenly felt too small, too quiet. Her eyes snapped back to the notebook. Now she wasn't curious anymore. Now she was scared. Actually scared. She turned pages faster. Deployment logs, names, medical notes, coordinates. Then finally, journal entries, recent ones. The handwriting changed here. Monsieur. Unstable. Like the writer's hands shook while writing them. Leo found the latest entry, dated 2 days earlier, and began reading. I arrived in Seattle tonight. I found the hospital. I watched her leave after shift change. She looks exactly like the photo he carried in his helmet. The guilt is eating me alive. I thought losing the leg would balance the scales somehow. It didn't. I have to tell her the truth. Leo's heartbeat thundered in her ears. She kept reading. I have to look this woman in the eyes and tell her fiancé didn't die the way they said he did. I have to tell her Thomas Wright died because of me. Leo's hand flew over her mouth. Number? No. The room tilted sideways. She forced herself to continue. Because I gave the order. I pulled the trigger during Operation Red Sand. And every night since Afghanistan, I've heard the explosion over and over again. Leo dropped the notebook onto the table like it burned her. Tears instantly filled her eyes. Her breathing became shallow. Panicked. Impossible. The army told her Thomas died during enemy fire. They told her he saved 3 soldiers before being killed. They awarded him the Silver Star. Two officers stood in dress uniform on her parents' porch and handed her a folded flag. She built her entire life around that story, around believing Thomas died a hero. But this was something else. Something darker. Leo grabbed the notebook again with trembling hands and kept reading. The military buried it. Friendly fire. Tactical error. They called it unavoidable. But I was the commanding officer on the ground. I gave the order to destroy the bridge. I didn't know Wright's team was still crossing. Leo squeezed her eyes shut hard enough to hurt. A sob clawed its way out of her chest. For 4 years, she had mourned a battlefield tragedy. But according to this journal, Thomas hadn't died in combat. He'd been killed by another American. By Liam, the man she'd just shared tea with, the man whose pain she pitied, the man who looked at her like he was already drowning. Leo stared blankly ahead while thunder rolled outside. Then she noticed something else, an envelope taped inside the back cover. Her fingers shook as she peeled it free. Inside was a USB drive and a folded letter. The handwriting on the envelope made her stomach collapse instantly. She recognized it immediately. Thomas, her dead fiancé's handwriting. Leo's vision blurred. No. She unfolded the paper slowly. Rain hammered the windows harder now, the city outside disappearing beneath darkness and water. Then she read the first line. Leo, if you're reading this, it means Liam found you. And suddenly, everything changed. Leo read the first paragraph 3 times before her brain finally accepted the words. If you're reading this, it means Liam found you. Not if this reaches you. Not if something happened. Thomas already knew. Somehow, he already knew Liam would survive, and that one day he would come looking for her. Outside, lightning flashed white across her apartment walls. Leo kept reading. Leo, if Liam is standing in front of you, then I need you to hear this before you hear anything else. Don't blame him. What happened over there wasn't simple, and it damn sure wasn't clean. Leo's chest tightened painfully. Her eyes raced down the page. The brass lied to all of us. If anything happens during Operation Red Sand, there's a good chance the official story won't match reality. If I don't make it back, trust Liam before you trust command. Leo stopped breathing for a second. Trust Liam? The man who admitted he ordered the strike that killed him? Her hands trembled harder as she flipped the page over. And then she saw the final paragraphs. The ones that changed everything. 3 weeks ago, my team raided a compound outside Sangin. We were supposed to find Taliban weapons. We found heroin. Crates of it. Millions of dollars worth. Protected by American contractors. Leo frowned in confusion. Her eyes moved faster now. We also found financial ledgers, transport manifests, names. Colonel Hayes is dirty. He's using military cargo routes to move narcotics and gold through Afghanistan. And I think he knows I found out. The room went dead silent around her. Even the storm outside seemed distant now. Leo stared at the page, trying to process it. A decorated American colonel. Drug trafficking? Military corruption? It sounded insane. Except Thomas wasn't insane. Thomas didn't exaggerate. And suddenly she remembered something she hadn't thought about in years. The final week before deployment. Thomas sitting awake at 2 a.m. in their kitchen. Not sleeping. Not talking. Just staring at nothing. She remembered asking him what was wrong. And his answer now came back crystal clear. There are some things over there people aren't supposed to see. At the time, she assumed he meant combat. Now, she wasn't so sure. Leo forced herself to continue reading. I copied everything onto a drive. If I try reporting this through military channels, it disappears. If I disappear, you take it public. Not the Pentagon. Not command. That the press. The whole damn system's compromised. Leo's pulse thundered. Then came the line that made her stomach drop completely. Hayes requested our ranger team specifically for Red Sand. It wasn't coincidence. It was cleanup. Leo lowered the letter slowly. The apartment suddenly felt freezing cold. Thomas hadn't died accidentally. He'd been silenced. And Liam had been the weapon they used to do it. A violent knock suddenly exploded against her apartment door. Leo jumped so hard the letter slipped from her fingers. Another knock. Harder this time. Her heart slammed into her ribs. Midnight visitors were never good news, especially after reading classified conspiracy material. Leo slowly stood. Every instinct screamed at her not to open that door. Another knock echoed through the apartment. Leo, male voice, older. Familiar. Relief hit instantly. Stan. Hospital security. Leo exhaled shakily and opened the door. Stan stood there soaked in a rain poncho, holding a flashlight. The retired cop looked concerned immediately. "Oh, Jesus, kid," he said. "You okay? You sounded panicked on the phone." Leo realized then she had called him 20 minutes earlier and barely remembered doing it. "Come in." Stan stepped inside and instantly noticed her face. "You look like you saw a ghost." Leo looked toward the notebook. "The man from the café," she said quietly. "I think he's been following me." Stan's expression hardened immediately. "What man?" Leo grabbed the photograph from the coffee table and handed it over. Stan examined it carefully. "Who took this?" "I don't know." "That's recent?" "No, 4 years old." Stan looked up sharply. "Okay, now I'm officially concerned." Leo hesitated. How much could she tell him? How much should she tell anyone? Finally, she pointed toward the notebook. "He dropped this." Stan opened it carefully. His retired detective instincts switched on almost immediately. The room grew quiet as he scanned several pages. Then his expression changed. Not confusion, recognition. "Wait a second." Leo's stomach tightened. "What?" Stan flipped back several pages, then looked directly at her. "I know this name." He pointed to one line written in the journal. I'm Colonel William Hayes." Leo felt ice flood her veins. "You know him?" Stan nodded slowly. "Not personally, but his name came across federal briefings years ago." "What kind of briefings?" Stan looked uncomfortable now. "The kind retired cops aren't supposed to discuss." Leo stepped closer. "Stan?" He sighed heavily. "There were rumors after Afghanistan. Internal investigations, missing military cargo, contractors disappearing, whistleblowers dying overseas." Leo's face drained of color. "Oh my God." "But nothing ever stuck," Stan continued. "Guys like Hayes, they don't fall easy." Leo looked back at Thomas's letter on the table. "Cleanup." The word echoed in her skull. Stan noticed the USB drive beside the notebook. "What's on that?" "I don't know yet." "Well," Stan said carefully, "if this is real, then you need to go to the FBI." "No." The answer came instantly. Too instantly. Stan frowned. "Leo, He specifically said not military channels, not official channels." "Okay, then local authorities." "No." Stan stared at her. Why are you protecting this guy?" "I'm not protecting him." But even as she said it, she realized part of her was, because she remembered Liam's face in the cafe. Not cold, not manipulative, destroyed, like a man carrying a coffin inside his chest. Stan folded his arms. "You said he followed you." "He watched the hospital." "That's stalking." "He also came to tell me the truth, or to control the narrative." Leo looked down, because that possibility terrified her most. What if Liam was lying? What if this entire thing was manipulation? What if Thomas's letter was forged? Stan pointed toward the notebook. "Did he threaten you?" "No." "Did he ask for anything?" "No." "Then what did he do?" Leo swallowed hard. He apologized. Silence. Rain pounded the windows. Then Stan spoke carefully. "Kid, men carrying that much guilt usually break one of two ways." Leo looked up. "They either confess." His eyes darkened. "Or they decide they can't live with themselves anymore." Leo's heart dropped instantly. Liam, alone in some motel room, drunk, armed, drowning in 4 years of guilt. She suddenly remembered the way his hand shook around the coffee cup, the untouched drink, the exhaustion in his eyes, the way he disappeared after saying her full name, like he finally lost the nerve to finish what he came to do. Leo grabbed her coat immediately. Stan blinked. "Where are you going?" "To find him." "Absolutely not." "He's in trouble?" "He admitted involvement in your fiancé's death. And I think someone else gave the order." Stan stepped between her and the door. "You, Leo, listen to me carefully. If this conspiracy is real, then anybody connected to it could be dangerous. He's not dangerous. You knew him for 10 minutes. No, Leo whispered. She looked down at Thomas's letter. He carried this for 4 years. Stan followed her gaze. Then his expression softened slightly. Leo. But she was already grabbing her keys. Because deep down, she knew something terrible was about to happen. And if she didn't find Liam Cross before the night ended, he might disappear forever. Rain slammed against the windshield so hard the wipers barely kept up. Leo gripped the steering wheel tightly as downtown Seattle blurred past in streaks of neon and water. Her heartbeat wouldn't slow down. Every red light felt unbearable. Every second felt late. Too late. The Starlight Motel sat near the industrial docks on the edge of the city, where rusted shipping containers and abandoned warehouses disappeared into fog rolling off Elliott Bay. The kind of place people chose when they didn't want to be found. Leo parked hard beneath a flickering sign that buzzed weakly in the storm. T-Star-R Light Motel. Half the letters dead. She spotted the truck immediately. Dark green Ford F-150. Montana plates. Still there. Relief hit her first. Then fear. Because if Liam hadn't left, what exactly was he doing inside? Leo stepped out into freezing rain and hurried toward room 114. The curtains were closed. No television glow. No movement. She knocked hard. Liam! Nothing. Only rain. She knocked again, louder. Liam opened the door. Still nothing. Then, a metallic sound inside. Small. Sharp. Leo froze. She knew that sound. Hospital security officers carried sidearms. She'd heard enough guns being cleared over the years to recognize it instantly. A handgun slide. Her blood turned to ice. Liam. This time her voice cracked. Silence. Then finally. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. The deadbolt unlocked. The door opened halfway. And Leo's stomach dropped. Liam looked terrible. Worse than before. His eyes were bloodshot. Face pale. Shirt wrinkled. A half-empty bottle of whiskey sat on the table behind him. And beside it, a black pistol. One bullet next to it. Not a full magazine. One bullet. Leo stared at it. Then back at him. You were going to kill yourself. Liam looked away immediately. That was answer enough. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Rain hammered the roof overhead. A cargo ship horn echoed somewhere near the harbor. Finally, Liam said quietly, "You shouldn't be here." Leo pushed past him into the room. The smell hit instantly. Whiskey. Rain. Oh, gun oil. And underneath all of it, burn cream. Medicinal and sterile. Liam shut the door slowly behind her. You read the journal. Not a question. Leo turned toward him sharply. You killed Thomas? Liam flinched like she hit him. Yes. The honesty stunned her. No excuses, no hesitation. Just pain. Raw and immediate. Leo's eyes burned with fresh tears. You looked me in the face tonight. I know. You sat there pretending you were a stranger. I tried to leave. Then why didn't you? Liam's jaw tightened hard. Because he made me promise. Leo blinked. What? Liam stared at the floor for several seconds before answering. The night before Red Sand, Thomas gave me the photo. His voice sounded distant now, like he was back there. I didn't tell him I'm back in Afghanistan. He said if anything happened to him, I was supposed to find you. Leo's throat tightened painfully. Liam continued quietly. I told him not to talk like that. Flashback emotion crept into his face now. Small details. The 1,000-yard stare. The shallow breathing. He laughed at me, Liam said softly. Said Rangers always know when command's setting them up. Leo slowly sat down on the edge of the motel bed. The room suddenly felt unbearably small. What happened over there? Liam looked toward the pistol on the table. For one terrifying second, Leo thought he might grab it. Instead, he walked to the window. Rain streaked down the glass beside him. Operation Red Sand was supposed to be extraction support, he said quietly. Simple in and out. But it wasn't. No. Liam rubbed his scarred hand slowly. And they sent us into a kill box. Leo listened silently. The bridge was the only exit from the valley. Thomas's ranger team was covering retreat while my SEAL unit secured the package. What package? Liam laughed bitterly. That's the funny part. He looked back at her. There never was one. Lightning flashed outside. For an instant, his scars glowed white in the room. The mission wasn't extraction, Liam said. It was execution. Leo felt nausea rise in her stomach. Liam walked slowly toward the table, toward the gun, but he stopped short of it. Hayes told me the valley was clear. His voice cracked for the first time. He swore Wright's team crossed the bridge. Leo pulled Thomas's letter from her coat pocket silently. Liam noticed immediately. You read everything? Yes. And now you know what I am. Leo looked directly at him. No. Liam frowned slightly. You're not the man who murdered Thomas. Silence. You're the man they tricked into doing it. Liam's composure finally broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a tiny collapse. His shoulders lowered. His breathing shook once. And suddenly Leo realized something horrifying. This man hadn't been living for 4 years. He'd just been surviving punishment. Every scar, every nightmare, every mile he traveled trying to find her. It was self-inflicted penance. I hear the explosion every night, Liam whispered. Leo didn't speak, because she believed him. I tried drinking it away. He looked toward the whiskey bottle. Didn't work. His eyes drifted toward the pistol. I tried everything. The room went silent again. Then Leo stood slowly and crossed the room toward him. Liam immediately stiffened. Not aggressive. Defensive, like he didn't deserve kindness anymore. Leo carefully picked up the pistol from the table, removed the magazine, ejected the chambered round, then placed the weapon inside the motel drawer. Liam watched her silently. You don't get to die tonight, she said quietly. His eyes shut briefly. You should hate me. I did. The honesty landed hard. Leo swallowed through the lump in her throat, but Thomas didn't. That hit him harder than anything else. Liam turned away sharply, jaw clenching. Leo continued carefully. He trusted you enough to carry that letter. He trusted the wrong man. No, Leo whispered. He trusted the only man who came back to tell the truth. Liam stared at her, really stared at her now. And for the first time since they met, the haunted look in his eyes cracked open just enough to reveal the exhausted human being underneath. Then Leo pulled the USB drive from her pocket. We expose Hayes. Liam's face darkened instantly. You have no idea what kind of people this involves. I know Thomas was murdered. When you go public with that drive, people will come after you. They already took everything from me. Liam stepped closer suddenly, intense now, protective. You don't understand. No, Leo fired back. You don't understand. Tears filled her eyes again. I buried him, Liam. The words shattered out of her. I stood there while they folded that flag and lied to my face. Liam looked devastated. You think I'm scared now? Rain battered the motel windows harder. You carried this alone for 4 years, Leo continued, but Thomas asked both of us to finish this. Liam looked away, because deep down, he knew she was right. A long silence passed. Then finally, very slowly, Liam nodded, and for the first time since Afghanistan, the soldier who survived Operation Red Sand stopped trying to die. The first story broke 48 hours later, at 6:12 a.m., right as Seattle commuters poured coffee and turned on morning news broadcasts. Leo watched it happen from a dim motel room with blackout curtains drawn shut. The television volume stayed low, but the words still hit like artillery. Breaking news. Classified military recordings. A possible war crimes investigation. A decorated army officer implicated. On screen, a polished news anchor paused dramatically before continuing. A leaked audio appears to capture direct orders given during a covert Afghanistan operation known as Red Sand. Then Liam's voice filled the room, distorted slightly through combat radio static. Desperate, panicked. E-Command, Wright's team is still on the bridge. I need confirmation before detonation. Leo closed her eyes immediately. Even now... Hearing it hurt. The response came a second later. Cold, calm, emotionless. Colonel Hayes. The valley is clear, Commander Cross. Detonate immediately. Then, the explosion. The recording cut there, but it was enough, more than enough. The story detonated across the country within hours. Cable news, military blogs, veteran forums, congressional watchdog accounts, everyone asking the same question. Why were American soldiers ordered into a kill zone by their own command? And once journalists got access to the financial ledgers Thomas uncovered, everything collapsed. Fast, very fast, money trails, shell corporations, contractor payments, military cargo reroutes, heroin shipments disguised as humanitarian transport. It was massive, far bigger than Leo imagined, far bigger than Liam ever knew. By the second night, FBI vehicles surrounded Colonel William Hayes's Virginia estate. Every major network carried the footage live. Leo sat frozen on the motel bed beside Liam as armored agents stormed the property. The cameras caught Hayes being dragged outside in handcuffs, wearing a navy bathrobe and fury on his face. Even through the screen, the man radiated arrogance. Power. The belief that rules didn't apply to him. A reporter shouted over the chaos. Colonel Hayes, did you authorize Operation Red Sand knowing American Rangers were still inside the valley? Hayes said nothing. Another reporter screamed, did you order the death of Sergeant Thomas Wright? Still nothing, but the cameras captured the moment Hayes looked directly toward them, toward the press, toward exposure. And for the first time, the colonel looked afraid. 3 days later, Leo testified before federal investigators. No makeup, no sleep, still wearing hospital scrubs beneath her winter coat because she came directly from shift. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner. Across the table sat DOJ attorneys, FBI agents, and military investigators suddenly pretending they cared about truth. Leo hated all of them a little. One investigator slid Thomas's original case file across the table. Ms. Harrington, he said carefully. Prior reports indicated your fiancé died during hostile enemy engagement. Leo looked him dead in the eyes. He was abandoned. The room went silent. Another investigator leaned forward. Did you understand the severity of these accusations? Leo reached into her bag calmly, then placed Thomas's handwritten letter on the table. You buried him with honors, she said quietly, but not with honesty. Nobody spoke after that, because there was nothing left to say. Liam became the face of the scandal overnight. News stations replayed his military photo constantly. Decorated Navy SEAL commander, Purple Heart recipient, amputee veteran, whistleblower. Some called him a hero, others called him a traitor. Online commentators who'd never seen combat argued about morality from behind microphones and ring lights. Leo watched all of it with growing disgust, because none of them understood the truth. They saw headlines. She saw the man waking up screaming 3 nights in a row. She saw the phantom pain attacks that left him drenched in sweat. She saw the way he instinctively scanned rooftops anytime a car slowed near them. War didn't end just because cameras turned off. One night after another 12-hour hospital shift, Leo returned to find Liam sitting outside the motel room staring at the rain. No whiskey, no gun, just silence. She sat beside him without speaking. For several minutes, neither of them moved. Finally, Liam said quietly, I should have disobeyed the order. Leo stared ahead at the wet parking lot. You trusted command. I knew something felt wrong. So did Thomas. Liam swallowed hard, but he still went, because good soldiers believe they're protecting people. Liam laughed bitterly, and what did that get him? Leo looked at him carefully then, at the scars, the exhaustion. The guilt he carried like body armor fused permanently to skin, and she realized something important. Liam had spent 4 years believing punishment was the same thing as accountability, but they weren't the same. You know what Thomas hated most? She asked quietly. Liam frowned slightly. What? Self-pity. A tiny smile touched Liam's mouth despite himself. Sounds like him. He used to say guilt only matters if it changes what you do next. The smile faded. Leo continued softly. You told the truth. Liam looked down. Too late. No, she whispered. Not too late for him. Silence settled again. Then Liam asked something so quietly she almost missed it. Do you hate me? Leo's eyes filled instantly, because the answer wasn't simple anymore. At first she wanted to, God, she wanted someone to blame. Someone human. Someone tangible. But now she knew the truth. Liam wasn't the monster. He was another casualty. Just one who survived long enough to suffer for it. I hated the ghost of you, she admitted softly. Liam looked at her slowly, but not the man sitting here. The emotion that crossed his face then nearly broke her. Not relief, something sadder. Like forgiveness was more painful than punishment. A week later, the Army officially reopened Thomas Wright's case. The Silver Star citation was amended publicly. The words "friendly fire incident" disappeared from sealed records permanently. In their place, killed after being intentionally abandoned during a compromised military operation tied to internal criminal conspiracy. Not clean, not pretty, but true, and truth mattered, especially to the dead. On a cold Tuesday morning beneath a pale winter sky, Leo stood at Arlington National Cemetery. The wind moved softly through endless rows of white marble headstones. Perfect lines, perfect silence, perfect grief. She stopped in front of Thomas's grave slowly. For a long moment she simply stared at his name carved into stone. Thomas Wright, United States Army, gone at 29 years old. Too young, far too young. Leo reached down and brushed her fingers gently across the engraved letters. And for the first time in 4 years, she didn't feel crushed. Sad? Always, but not crushed. Behind her came the familiar rhythmic sound. Click. Step. Click. Liam. She didn't turn around. He stepped beside her wearing a dark charcoal suit, posture straight, military instincts still etched permanently into muscle memory. In his hand was a single white rose. Without speaking, Liam knelt carefully and placed it at the base of Thomas's grave. Then he stood, raised his scarred hand, and delivered a slow, perfect salute. He held it for several long seconds, eyes locked forward, breathing steady, honoring the man he believed he failed. When Liam finally lowered his hand, Leo noticed something different. The haunted look was gone. Not completely. Maybe ghosts never disappeared entirely. But lighter, quieter, like the war inside him finally stopped screaming. It's over, Liam said softly. Leo looked out across Arlington's endless hills. No, she whispered. Then she glanced toward him. It's finally honest. And somehow, that mattered more. 3 months later, Seattle finally stopped raining. At least for a few days. The city felt different in sunlight. Cleaner, softer, less haunted. Leo stood outside Providence Regional Hospital holding 2 paper coffee cups while the morning shift change flooded through the parking lot around her. Paramedics, nurses, residents running late. The usual chaos. But today, for once, she wasn't exhausted. A familiar rhythmic clicking echoed behind her. Click. Step. Click. Leo turned. Liam approached wearing dark jeans and a plain navy jacket. One hand shoved awkwardly into his pocket. Still broad-shouldered. Still scarred. Still carrying pieces of war in the way he moved. But different now. More present. Like he'd finally returned from somewhere far away. You're late, Leo said. Liam glanced at his watch seriously. I'm 38 seconds early. Leo laughed before she could stop herself. It surprised both of them, because laughter had become rare for a long time. Liam handed her a folded paper bag. What's this? Breakfast. Leo peeked inside. A blueberry muffin. Still warm. She looked up suspiciously. You remembered. You've ordered the same thing every Tuesday for 3 months. That tiny detail hit her harder than she expected. Not because it was romantic, because it meant someone was paying attention again. In the gentle human way grief often steals from people. They started walking slowly toward the waterfront across the street from the hospital. Traffic hummed nearby. Gulls circled overhead. For a while, neither of them spoke. They'd become good at silence. Not the painful kind, the peaceful kind. Eventually, Leo glanced sideways at him. How's physical therapy? Liam sighed dramatically. The therapist is a former Marine. That sounds terrifying. He enjoys my suffering. Yet you deserve it a little. Fair. Leo smiled into her coffee. Small moments like this still felt strange. Not wrong, just unfamiliar. For years, her world had been divided into before Thomas and after Thomas. But life, she was slowly learning, didn't stay frozen for the dead. It kept moving, quietly, relentlessly, and somehow, that wasn't betrayal. It was survival. As they reached the waterfront railing, Liam leaned carefully against it and stared out across Elliott Bay. Morning sunlight reflected across the water in fractured gold. "I used to think surviving was punishment," he said quietly. Leo looked at him. "But?" Liam took a slow breath. "But Thomas didn't survive either." The words settled heavily between them. "He'd be furious if we wasted whatever time we've got left." Leo smiled sadly. "Yeah." A beat passed. Then Liam glanced toward her carefully. "You know what still bothers me most?" "What?" "That first night in the café." Leo raised an eyebrow. "What about it?" Liam shook his head faintly. "I spent 4 years rehearsing what I'd say to you. And then I panicked because you asked to sit down." Leo laughed again. A real laugh this time. Warm, uncontrolled. Liam smiled watching her. Not forced, not guilty. Just genuine. And for a second, standing there beside the water with Seattle waking up around them, they both looked like people finally stepping out of a storm. Not healed completely. Maybe nobody ever heals completely from loss like that. Thomas was still gone. The years stolen from him would never come back. The nightmares probably wouldn't disappear overnight either. But truth had changed something important. The lie was dead. And sometimes that's where healing begins. Not with forgetting, not with revenge, but with finally carrying the weight honestly. Leo looked out toward the horizon quietly. "You know," she said softly, "I used to think closure was this huge dramatic thing." Liam glanced toward her. "What do you think now?" Leo watched sunlight ripple across the bay. "I think it's smaller than that." "How small?" She smiled faintly. "A cup of coffee without checking the exits." Liam laughed under his breath. Then for the first time since they met, he stopped scanning the crowd behind them. Stopped tracking every moving car. Stopped preparing for danger that wasn't coming. He simply stood there beside her. Present, human, free. And maybe that's the thing about hidden heroes. They rarely look extraordinary. Sometimes they're just exhausted nurses working double shifts, or broken veterans carrying impossible guilt. Sometimes they're simply the one person willing to tell the truth when everyone else stays silent. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one holding everything together. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. And if you believe no one should be left behind, not on the battlefield, not in grief, not in silence, subscribe and join our community for more powerful stories like this one.